Good evening, my friends. This is the Grimflayer. Hope you're doing very well tonight, and I hope you'll forgive my voice. I am a little bit sick, and I'm also a lot tired from work, but neither of those things is going to stop me from bringing you Pioneer Banhammer. Round 4, I think it is. Oko and Nexus of Fate are both banned, so I have not been playing Pioneer, partially because I didn't want to play against Oko decks. Just felt like I wanted to play a mid-range deck, didn't really want to play one with Oko, didn't want to spend the time building one and learning one and tuning one because I knew this was going to happen, or I was as sure as you can be without literally knowing that this is going to come to pass, that Oko is going to be banned. So, in the first half of this video, we're going to talk about the bans themselves, what I think of them, my analysis thereof. And in the second half of the video, you, the viewer, get to have your say. I'm going to show you 3 archetypes that I think are really interesting that are all in the BGx family that I am going to kind of pick one and run with on the channel for a little while. Just like in Modern, we are kind of running with BG Rock while dabbling in other archetypes. I think with Pioneer, it might be the same thing. So it's really important, if you have an opinion here that's strong, that you make your voice heard. Without further ado, let's talk about the bans. Alright guys, so let's hit the high notes here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but over the past week, Simic Food Ramp has a nearly 60% non-mirror match win rate on Magic Online, and has earned more than twice as many 5-0 league finishes than any other archetype. Those statistics are very damning. They are very much outliers. People tend to overstate the odds of any given match, and I'm sure guilty of this as well. People are like, oh, this is an 80-20 matchup, or, you know, things like that. The truth is that a win rate like this, nearly 60% across the board, irrespective of matchup, including the entirety of the player pool, that number is fairly astonishing. It does show a true outlier in terms of power, in my view, and you know, enough has been said about Oko. If you have at all your finger on the pulse of really any format where he's been legal, you've heard these arguments. Oko is too strong, he's too homogenizing, he creates play patterns that are not particularly fun. I have played Oko twice recently on this channel, Blue Rock and Blue Rock Revisited, and I have a 4-color modern mid-range list, Moist Jund, basically Jund splashing for Oko. I've already played that. That will be coming out soon. So I have been on both sides of the table as far as Oko goes, and I agree with that. Just not particularly enjoyable in my opinion. I know some of you out there watching this channel, you like Oko. You know, there's no accounting for taste. Hey, you don't have to apologize for that, but I am one who does not particularly care for the type of gameplay that Oko generates, even though he's nominally fair. So between that, and between how ubiquitous he is, how easily splashed he is, and these numbers here, yeah, I don't think even the people who like Oko are really going to have much in the way of claiming that this is an unjust ban. You know, if you disagree, as always, feel free to air your opinion in the comments section, but moving on, it has favorable matchups against most of the other top decks, and no strongly unfavorable matchups. Oko stands out as a powerful threat, difficult to answer, and shores up many natural weaknesses of ramp decks. In addition, Oko appears in several of the other decks and would likely continue to contribute to metagame balance. Therefore, he's banned. Balance problems, that is. Not contributing to balance. Contributing to the lack of balance. And then, you know, I think Nexus of Fate is a card that, if anything, is even more unpopular than Oko on a case-by-case basis. It was, of course, not as new, nowhere near as ubiquitous, but if anything, probably less likable than Oko. Has fewer redeeming virtues than Oko, just in terms of how it's designed. One thing that I really wish to highlight here, and then we're going to move on to the second part of the video. I won't spend too long talking about Nexus of Fate. I think it's good that this card was banned. But a lot of the cards that have posed problems in recent design, I wish to stress this, they have built-in inevitability. A lot of cards that are contentious, a lot of cards that generate unpopular play patterns, a lot of cards that become linchpins of unpopular decks, they have this inevitability. Nexus has inevitability because it shuffles itself back in. So you're never going to mill out. You can play a win conditionless deck, basically. And even if you're not doing that, as the game goes on, you're going to see it more and more often statistically. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, has this exact same problem. Oko, Thief of Crowns, has this problem in a different way, but the inevitability that it brings, if unanswered, just making 3/3s, turning dead draws. You don't even need dead draws, but you can turn relatively dead cards into 3/3s, or you can just make a 3/3 out of nothing over the course of 2 turns. Field of the Dead is another recently banned in Pioneer card that has this inevitability. So that's the takeaway from me for this ban, is that when we're designing these very powerful mythic rares, I think not only do we need to learn the lesson about free spells, which came up with Once Upon a Time, we also need to learn the lesson of inevitability. These are 2 very, very common factors in a card ultimately leading to bad gameplay patterns, to bad feelings as the participant in the game, and ultimately to the card itself getting banned. So Nexus of Fate is banned. Hey, I used to play Taking Turns. You know, I love the Taking Turns archetype, and even I never liked Nexus of Fate, never thought it was good design. So as far as I'm concerned, this is another case of good riddance. I love the bans that they're taking, and, just briefly, worth pointing this out in case anybody missed this at the end here. Given the continued improvement in metagame health and the upcoming holidays, our plan is not to make further changes until the new year. The next update for Pioneer will be Monday, January 6th. So now's our time, my friends. Now's our time. Now I feel more like it's going to be more worth my time. The reward will be there to start picking an archetype and trying to really tweak it, trying to really brew it. I did that right when the format was new with BG Rock, and I think we had some interesting discoveries and we made some interesting choices, but ultimately, the more I played, the more I realized I am just frankly doing myself a disservice, and therefore doing all of you a disservice, if I'm trying to play traditional BG Rock without the inevitability of Field of the Dead, or without the power of Oko, Thief of Crowns, and without some of these other tools that have since been banned. So, I called it last week, if you watched my video, that there would be more significant bans. I said almost for sure happening in the near future, and here they are. Oko and Nexus of Fate, both gone. I'm happy. Let me know what you think, and now let's talk about the plans for the short-term Pioneer play on this channel. Alright guys, so I just briefly touched on this, but as much as I wish it were otherwise, I think that straight up BG Rock, especially traditional mid-range, low to medium curve, low to the ground, efficient BG Rock, I don't think it's quite going to be as strong as competitors. Now, that doesn't mean it's unplayable. If you're committed to the Rock out there, please don't let me dissuade you. In fact, I hope you prove me wrong, because playing 2 colors is my favorite. But I think the incentives are here to probably splash a color, so one of the things I'm considering playing, and again, you guys let me know which of these 3 archetypes you would like me to see me play the most, is Abzan Midrange. Again, playing any kind of BGx midrange in Pioneer that wasn't Sultai right up until today, to me, felt like we were kind of just leaving some power on the table. But now that Oko's gone, Sultai's still good, don't get me wrong, it's still got some incentives, but I think the incentives to play Abzan just went up. So here we see a nice green-black rock core with a lot of our favorite cards, a lot of the cards that I have been exploring in green-black rock, but with a notable addition of the meme monster itself, Siege Rhino as a 4 of. This is not how we'd have to set up the list, by the way. I'm just picking I'm just showing you the default list right now on Goldfish, but of course Siege Rhino, very powerful top end in a format like this, especially a format that's probably about to get more mid-rangey. Mid-range decks being very soft to Nexus of Fate, and also fair decks having been kind of homogenized to some degree to include Oko. Neither of those things are true. We're going to see a wider variety of mid-range decks take the field, and Siege Rhino is going to be good against all of them, and also against the aggro decks that are going to try to prey upon the shift in the the meta, as they always do. So Siege Rhino is probably our major incentive to play Abzan. Other than that, it's looking like a pretty much green-black core. This list happens to play Traverse the Ulvenwald. I don't think that's necessary. I think you could kind of go either way, much like in Rock, but it's certainly there as an option. And then a card like Knight of Autumn can also be incentive to play white, but of course there are other white cards that will see play in this archetype as well. Kambal, Consul of Allocation is one. We're seeing Rest in Peace here, and I'm sure other things that are not here. Abzan Charm, definitely another one. So Abzan Midrange, it does exactly what it says on the tin. I think this is what I'm interested in right now. If you want to see me play the most traditionally mid-range list possible, it would probably be Abzan for the near future. So let me know what you think about that. Okay, my friends, the second archetype that I'm interested in exploring repeatedly on this channel, they're calling it Golgari Toolbox, but this is a Dark Petition Seasons Past deck. So whether you want to call it Golgari Toolbox or Golgari Seasons or Green-Black Seasons or Dark Seasons, whatever, the idea is that we have a mid-rangey interactive plan with all the usual suspects and a few value permanents, then including some non-traditional BG Rock ones like Ugin, but mostly traditional BG Rock ones, just in much smaller numbers. But we're trying to extend the game and take over the game and eventually use Dark Petition, which becomes kind of like a demonic tutor if you have the Spell Mastery, and if you can profitably use Triple Black after you resolve it with Spell Mastery. And you can get Seasons Past with it, or you can already have Seasons Past. You can buy back this in addition to just having both massive card selection and card advantage. So this is one of the things that I felt I should have been doing. Back when I decided to kind of put BG Rock on the shelf and focus on Modern, as I've been doing for the past few weeks, I was like, alright, the Rock decks lack inevitability, so whether it be Field of the Dead, or whether it be Splashing Blue, or whether it be doing this is a way to play straight green-black, and it's still around, it's still on the table, and I think it just got better, too. So maybe part of the reason this is called Toolbox is because it plays Mastermind's Acquisition, even as only a one-of, and it has kind of a wish board. You don't have to do that. I don't think that's necessary from what little I know of this archetype. You could have a more traditional sideboard and lean more on just Dark Petition and Seasons Past rather than Masterminds, or you could maybe even lean more heavily into Mastermind's Acquisition. But either way, the idea of this, again, is it's got all the interaction and then some of a typical mid-range deck, and it's got the late-game inevitability of Dark Petition and Seasons Past. Probably the grindiest of all of these options for sure, the most control-like of all these options, but it is still mid-rangey enough and green-black enough, certainly, that I think it would appeal to the core audience of this channel. So let me know if you like Seasons Past. And finally, my friends, another option here would be Golgari Soulflayer, green-black Soulflayer. I've seen like a 5-color version of this deck, or all the way down to a 2-color version of this deck, everything in between, but the core does appear to consistently be green-black. And this is the most aggro-oriented version of them all, because of course the idea is that you're filling up your graveyard, you are making an unbeatable creature in the form of Soulflayer with all these different keywords, and a lot of these cards, like especially Murderous Rider, Questing Beast, you know, if you are unable to get Soulflayer online for whatever reason, these cards pull a lot of weight on their own, of course, so it does have a mid-range plan B, basically. So yeah, this is maybe the least traditionally mid-range as like an ethos, as a philosophy of the three, but it definitely is a archetype that's getting a little bit of steam right now. I've heard a little bit of chatter about it, and maybe it's something that you're interested in seeing me play over the other two, but you will have to let me know. We've of course got a Delirium sub-theme, so if you don't like any of these three, maybe you like a traditional BGx Delirium deck that doesn't necessarily play Soulflayer but has other Delirium enablers and payoffs like Grimflayer. Maybe there's something else you want to see. Maybe you want to see me play straight green-black traditional mid-range no matter how well it's positioned. Maybe you want to see me try Jund or Sultai. I will tell you though, my friends, I have spread myself pretty thin lately trying to keep up with all the donation leagues, trying to keep up with all the modern content, and now trying to do this. So I will have to be judicious with what I explore in Pioneer, so that's why I really want to hear from you. So let me know which of these archetypes or which of the other ones that I have not listed appeal the most to you. Okay guys, so there you have it. Oko is done for. You are out of yet another format, Oko. I will not miss you, even though we've had some fun times lately on the channel. I'd like to say that I'll miss you, but I would just be lying. I'm just not that big of a fan. In general, I just really hope. I hope this is the end of their little cycle of pushing these really pushed Planeswalkers out of production that began with War of the Spark. I don't like it. I think Liliana of the Veil is the best Planeswalker by far that has ever been designed, because she is very powerful, very thematic, and very fair. She is never going to homogenize a format, as far as I can tell. Maybe she'd be too powerful in Pioneer, but anyway, as long as the power level of a format is sufficient, she's never going to homogenize it, whereas Oko is kind of taking over, or very intruding very heavily upon every format they let him stay in. So I really just maybe would like Oko a little bit more if he wasn't the latest in a long line of really miserable Planeswalkers in my view. But anyway, we've already said enough about Oko. He's out of Pioneer. Only really have to worry about him in Modern, at least me. I don't play older formats than Modern. And Nexus of Fate, again, good riddance. So let me know, as always, my friends, what you think about the bans, and again, what archetype you would like me to start really digging my teeth into Pioneer. I'm talking, deck techs, analysis, spoilers, everything. And of course gameplay, just like I do for BGx and Modern. So let me know about that, and I will talk to you soon. Stay tuned to the channel, because that's right, we are playing Pioneer. Now that Oko is banned, I will be playing it for you very soon, and of course all the usual Modern stuff as well. Hope everybody out there has a wonderful night.